time varies depending on the blood group, and we just can't...
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. In this video, we're going to take a look at the full timeline of the REC series, or REC, however you want to say it. The series currently has 4 movies. The first 2 are found footage style, and the last 2 are shot like normal movies. We follow a reporter who gets trapped inside an apartment building during the outbreak of a mysterious virus. Let's take a look at the full timeline of REC, how the virus was created, and eventually destroyed. Before we get into the REC series, today's video is sponsored by Temu. They're an online marketplace and their site has so many cool products on it. They told me to pick some vampire related stuff, so that's exactly what I did. One of my favorite items is this floor mat that looks like a coffin. It's great quality and it's double-sided. The floor mat is available in all different sizes. They have such a huge variety of items, it was hard for me to decide, but I also got this vampire LED sign and another sign for where I do my voiceovers. If you like horror movies, you might recognize this. They also have a lot of cool plushies. My cat picked out this poster and a Dracula costume. I think he's been watching too many of my videos. Everything that I ordered arrived quickly and was good quality. No matter what you're interested in, you'll find something for you. Get free shipping and free returns for 90 days, and if something is delivered late, you get a $5 credit. If you're interested, download Temu by clicking the link in the description box and you can get the vampire LED light for free. You can also use my code that's on screen now to get 30% off your order. Thanks so much to Temu for sponsoring the video. I'm going to tell the story in chronological order, which means we need to start with information we learn in the second movie, and the comic books. It all began with a girl named Tristana Merdos who worked in a convent. One day while praying in her room, several priests break in and take advantage of her. The next day she is found very beat up and they assume she is dead. The priests were doing a prayer over her body when she suddenly started reacting violently. The demon inside her lets out a loud scream that kills the nuns in the room, and then she kills the priest as well. Another nun finds Tristana and manages to inject her with a tranquilizer, then they tie her to a crucifix. The girl is taken to a hospital at some point, but not long after, she goes missing. It turns out she was taken by the Vatican and brought to the apartment building in the first movie. The Vatican wanted to experiment on the possessed woman. They wanted to study the physiological effects of a demonic possession and possibly find an antidote. Her body was moved to an apartment building in Barcelona to be studied by a priest named Albelda. The demon was locked in the penthouse behind a very special door. Somehow the priest was able to create a door that could only be opened in complete darkness. When the lights are on, the door cannot be seen, but when using night vision on the camera, it reveals the hidden door. The demon was chained here in this prison of darkness. The Bible says God imprisoned demons and fallen angels in a prison of darkness. Somehow the priest was able to recreate this place. The priest began performing experiments with the blood from the possessed girl. He began injecting it into children and rats. In the first and second film, we see photos of these experiments and they are gruesome. He eventually found out that the root of the possession could be narrowed down to one enzyme found in the blood. The priest was trying to develop an antidote, but he said the virus was resilient. It's able to mutate into different strains, like the common cold. Eventually this enzyme mutated and a demonic possession became a virus that can spread through blood or saliva, aka a bite. The priest gets a message from Rome that the girl must be destroyed to avoid this horrible condition spreading. There is a tape recording of the priest and he says he needs to perform a very special ritual to destroy the girl. And if he fails, may God help us all. He starts by poisoning her food, which is human flesh. The girl passes out and the priest unchains her, probably so he can perform the ritual. Unfortunately, right after he unchains her, she wakes up and tries to kill him. The priest had no choice but to climb up into the air ducts and lock himself in with no escape. In this air duct area is also where he kept all the children he experimented on. We see in the second movie that the priest must have starved to death in the attic because he doesn't seem to be infected. I'm pretty sure if he got infected, he would still be alive. The priest was stuck in the roof, and although Tristana escaped the chains, she was still trapped in the prison of darkness. So at least the priest didn't let her out. Over time, she turned into a horrifying creature. She looks like something from Amnesia: The Dark Descent. This girl turned into this. Even though Tristana could not escape the penthouse, the virus still managed to get out. Some of the rats that were being experimented on escaped and bit multiple people and a dog. It's also possible that some people were infected by insects. We hear in a tape recording that the priest himself was worried about this happening. Shortly after the first few people are infected is when the first movie begins.
We have been waiting.
Well, we're here now. There's nothing to worry about. Okay, we're here now. We'll take care of things.
We follow a reporter named Angela and her cameraman Pablo. They are going on a ride-along with the fire department during their night shift. They get a call about a screaming woman trapped in her apartment, so they rush to the building. When the firefighters and police arrive, there's no response inside the apartment, so they break down the door. When they find the woman, there is something very wrong with her. She is covered in blood and acting very strange.
We can. The ambulance is on its way. We're gonna take you to the hospital. Sergio, get everybody.
While trying to calm the woman down, she goes crazy and attacks one of the police officers, biting his neck. One firefighter stays behind with the woman and the others grab the officer and rush him downstairs to get medical attention. But the building is now sealed off and no one can go outside. Turns out that dog that was infected by a rat became sick. The owner brought the dog to a veterinarian, and while there, it attacked all the other animals and had to be put down. They knew the dog had something very serious, so they tracked the owner down to this building and locked it down. The dog also bit a human being while at the vet, and this is what causes the outbreak seen in the third film. Nothing of consequence really happens in the third film, and the outbreak is ultimately contained. Now let's get back to the apartment building. The police officer has been wounded, but they're not allowed to leave the building. The firefighters and the residents are gathered in the main lobby. They hear someone with a loudspeaker say that the building has been quarantined by the public health department. They're working as fast as they can to get them out. While everyone is trying to figure out a way to escape, the firefighter who stayed upstairs with the old lady suddenly drops from the third floor, hitting the ground in the lobby, causing everyone to panic.
Antibiotics, okay?
That's usually not a good sign. The infected lady must have attacked him and he was overpowered. A few of the officers who are locked in the building are forced to shoot the old lady when she tries to attack them. The entire time, Angela remains adamant that they must keep filming everything. This will be the only proof they have. Nothing else happens for a few hours, but the police officer who was bitten was infected, and there's also a young girl who is infected by one of the rats. She is also the owner of the dog that led the building to being shut down, so I guess it's possible she was infected by her dog. Some officers from the health department enter the building and they proceed to handcuff both of the men who were bitten before injecting them with something. Since they immediately handcuffed the infected, they must know what's really going on. The two men who were unconscious suddenly spring to life and attack. Eventually more people begin to turn and the building turns into chaos. The infected behave like zombies. They're completely feral, not capable of speech, and they eat human flesh. The sounds they make are not like an ordinary human either. They sound guttural and demonic. In the third movie, the infected could not enter a church, and they were harmed by holy water. They're very similar to vampires when it comes to weaknesses. Pretty much any holy object will hold power over them. Those who are infected with the curse are extremely hard to kill, and will come back time and time again unless you damage the brain enough, or remove the head completely. This lady was killed and came back to life about 3 times. We learned something important from the health officer. He says that how fast people turn depends on their blood type. That's why some people turn fast, while others like the little girl can become infected for days before fully turning. Each person is picked off by the infected one by one until only Angela and Pablo remain. They run to the penthouse for safety, and we finally get to see where the priest was living. His entire apartment is filled with stuff about the experiments, and there are newspaper clippings all over the walls about Tristana Merdos, the original possession. They are confused by this because they were told that nobody lived here. So I guess not only did nobody know about the experiments, nobody knew this guy was even up here. Angela and Pablo are trying to find a way out when something breaks the light on the camera. Now they're in complete darkness, in the penthouse. This leads to them wandering into the prison made of darkness by mistake. The creature has been trapped in here so long, it has become blind and cannot see them, only hear them. Why is that always worse? Angela and Pablo try to leave quickly, but accidentally bump into something alerting the creature. Pablo is killed and Angela is dragged into the dark in one of the best horror movie endings at the time. After the events of the first movie, a military team accompanied by someone from the Ministry of Health is sent into the building. They are there to retrieve samples of the original infected, Tristana. The Vatican needs those blood samples in order to develop an antidote. And since the virus now has the possibility to spread, they need to work on a cure as fast as possible. In the fourth movie, we learn that you cannot make a cure using common infected blood. It has to be from the source. That's why they need the blood of Tristana. The soldiers sent into the building quickly realize this is no ordinary mission. They begin photographing and recording all the priest's research in the penthouse. The soldier with the camera says, "What is all this?" But the health officer says, "Just record everything." There's a loud noise from downstairs and the soldiers want to check it out. This leads to their first encounter with the infected. One of them is bitten and he changes almost immediately. He charges his squad mates and tries to bite them, but the health officer begins saying a prayer, and the man immediately stops. This gives him an opportunity to quickly shove him into the room and close the door. He starts pounding on the door trying to escape, until the officer stabs a knife into the door and hangs a rosary from it. As soon as he does this, the room goes silent. This stuff would have been great information for the people in the first movie. The soldiers are very angry and confused by what's going on, so they force the health officer to spill the beans. He tells them that the girl was possessed and brought here to be studied, but the virus got out. He says these people are not infected. They're possessed. Now they need the original blood to make an antidote, in case this gets out. Also, he's not an officer with the health department. He's a priest. The remaining soldiers become angry because they've been lied to, and they're now trapped in the building. The priest is the only one who can give the evacuation order. The radio will only recognize his voice. Later, someone returns to the door with the rosary, and they can hear a child's voice. It's very common in demonology for evil spirits to mimic children. They continue their search and find a vial of the original blood in the penthouse. The priest must test if it's real, so he pours some out and touches it with a cross. This makes the blood catch fire, but not just the blood that he poured out. The vial bursts into flames as well, so they now have no sample. Their last option is to get some blood from Tristana herself. Problem is, the priest does not know of this secret door that can only be accessed in complete darkness. To find her location, they capture an infected and tie it to a chair. The priest is able to make the demon speak. He says, "In the name of God, tell me where you are." At first, the demon says everywhere. The original demon uses all the infected as puppets. It's able to see through their eyes and speak through them. In the third movie, we see the reflection of someone who is infected, and it appears to be Tristana. I think this was trying to show us that all these infected are controlled by the same entity. This scene reminded me of the demon from Constantine. After multiple attempts by the priest, the demon finally reveals its location. Above. This confuses the men because they were already in the penthouse and they didn't find anything. Someone enters the apartment they are in. As the camera focuses, we see it's Angela. She survived her encounter at the end of the first movie. They make sure she's not infected and realize she must be the reporter who is locked in here. Angela tells them she's seen the girl in the penthouse, but it was through the night vision in the camera. That's when the priest finally understands. They return to the penthouse and the priest tells them to turn off the light. As soon as the light is switched off, a black door is revealed. They feel their way to the door and open it. Once inside, they switch on their light to reveal a hidden room where Albelda was conducting experiments. They turn the lights off again and find a strange stone water basin. It's almost painfully obvious what's about to happen, but as one of the soldiers is looking into it, something grabs him and pulls him in. The soldier quickly turns on the light to see what's happening, but the stone basin disappears. He switches the light back off to see if his friend is still there, but he's gone. Just then, they're attacked by Tristana. Angela has been through this before, so she tells them to be quiet because Tristana is blind. Unfortunately, the priest's radio starts going off, causing him to be attacked. During the commotion, the priest is trying to get a blood sample, but Angela removes the creature's head with a shotgun shell. The priest yells no because he needs the blood sample. I don't understand why he can't take a blood sample from the corpse that's spewing blood, but whatever. This is where things take a weird turn though. Angela tells the priest to give the order, get them out of the building, but the priest refuses. Angela loses it and starts hitting the priest and then shoots the remaining soldier. This is when we learn that Angela is actually possessed. When Angela was attacked at the end of the first movie, we didn't get to see the full story. She was not dragged into the darkness and killed. She managed to crawl back to the camera, but Tristana grabs her mouth and holds it open. Then a giant worm-like parasite goes from Tristana into Angela. This allowed the demon to finally leave the penthouse. So the whole time, Angela was actually the one that they were looking for. At first, I wondered what the demon said it was above, if Angela was standing in the room at the time. But the priest asked the demon where the original girl was, not the current host. So I guess the demon didn't lie. The priest just didn't know that the original demon could change bodies. Somehow, after Tristana was possessed, this thing began to grow inside her. I guess this is the physical form of a demon. The reason that Angela does not look like Tristana is because this time the parasite made its host immune to the virus. That way it could leave undetected. This is very smart and pretty similar to what real viruses do. They want to be as unnoticeable as possible in order to spread easier. In the end, the priest still refuses to order the evacuation. He only asks, "How did you do it?" In response, the demon laughs and says, "I would have loved if you were the one to let me out. But you know what? I don't need you. You know that, right?" Then she kills the priest by slamming his head into the ground. Right after, she picks up his radio and calls for evacuation. And when she talks, it's with the priest's voice.
Owen.
That's pretty interesting that the demon could have got out the whole time. It just really wanted someone of faith to be responsible for it getting out. The fourth movie continues off right where the second movie ends. Angela calls for help, and soon after, a team arrives to get her out. When the SWAT team arrives, she's momentarily left alone with one of the soldiers. During this time, the demon switches hosts again. The doctor later explains that the demon will move to a new host as soon as it finds a better one. We're told the parasite was basically using Tristana as a cocoon, waiting until it could find the perfect host. Angela wakes up on a boat traveling through the ocean. On this boat, they are doing top secret experiments, trying to find an antidote for the demonic virus. They manage to contain the outbreak in the apartment building and the wedding from the third film, but they're worried they might not be able to stop another. On the ship, monkeys are injected with the virus, then used to test different antidotes. During a power outage, one of the monkeys escapes and infects the cook. The cook then contaminates the food, infecting more people. The doctor tries their current antidote on an infected human, but it doesn't work. He comes to the conclusion that without the original strain, it's impossible to make an antidote, just as the Vatican suspected. When Angela was saved, her camera was found as well. The footage was corrupted though, so it took a while to repair the files. When they finally watch the footage, they see Angela being infected with the parasite. Since the parasite is on board, it's now possible for them to make an antidote. What they don't know is it switched bodies into Guzman when he entered the apartment building to rescue Angela. After seeing the tape, the doctors attempt to cut the parasite out of Angela, but lucky for her, she escapes. Eventually, she comes to the conclusion that she was alone with Guzman, and the demon moved to the best host. The doctor hears this, and realizing he probably won't escape, he activates the ship's self-destruct. The parasite actually tries to go back into Angela, but they knock Guzman unconscious and escape. Only Angela and one other person get off the ship before it explodes, finally putting an end to the virus. Or did it? After the ship explodes, we see the parasite in the water, and it's still alive. Just as it begins to move, it's eaten by a fish. Some people have speculated if the parasite is truly dead, or there's now a demon fish out there. The parasite seems to swim into the fish's mouth, so I don't know. There's one more scene showing that Angela and Nick made it back to land safely, and there was no evidence that the fish began to change, so I think the virus might actually be over. That's my video covering the full timeline of the Wreck series. I'm a big fan of found footage horror movies, so the first Wreck film will always be one of my favorites, along with Cloverfield and Blair Witch. If you haven't seen the first two films in this series, they are absolutely worth a watch. There's a pretty good English dub for the first movie, but I'm not too sure about the second one. What do all of you think about the Wreck series? Do you believe the worm is really dead? I honestly don't know. Also, which one of these films is your favorite? Mine would have to be the first one for sure, although the second is pretty good. One more thing. Happy holidays to everyone, and I hope you have an amazing new year. I can't thank you guys enough for the support you've shown the channel this year. I want to continue to improve and make the best videos I can, and maybe even expand into some other supernaturals. If there's any other movies or TV shows you want me to cover, please leave them in the comments below. I really like reading through your suggestions. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't. It helps out a lot and I really appreciate it. Of course, a big thanks to my members for supporting the channel. Roderick, Zothar's Paradox, Adam Mokabe, Matthew Batson, Dragon Faye Rose, Emily Nixon, Onyx Cat, Czar Shadow, Dominique Toussaint, Walter Collin, Rich Sauce, Nate's in La La Land, Great Grebo, Jason Miller, Gabriel Ragsdale, Steve Lloyd, Jake Walker, Awesome Pea Shooter, Cyper2890, Mark Thorpe, Steven556, Owen Wildish, and Joseph Roman. Thanks again so much, and I'll see you in the next video.